It is getting beyond a joke, isn't it, to Meghan and Harry's Montecito castle. 19 members of staff have now left in quick succession. The latest, we found out about this late yesterday, somebody called Ashley Henson, who was their grandiosely titled head of global communications. She's quit to set up her own company, her own PR company. She sort of made it clear. She said, she didn't actually say this, but she sort of made it clear she loved working for the Sussex, loved it. You can feel Meghan's hand in all of that. Yeah, loved it so much she quit. But Meghan does seem to be a difficult person to work for, don't you think, Vanessa?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when so many people are leaving, there's no smoke without fire type thing. And I think given the fact that she was involved in their image, gently withdrawing from it would also serve her best interest if she's looking to set up her own PR consulting company. So she's not going to throw them under the bus if she's wanting to set up her own thing.
It's a good point, actually. That's exactly, yeah, she's... It was all like she's going to represent Harry and Meghan and everything. But to be honest with you, maybe, just maybe, she did leave on excellent terms and she did love working there. But given what we've been reading over the last couple of weeks, I kind of doubt it. The Hollywood Reporter called Meghan a dictator in high heels who rushed around, stomped around having tantrums, noisy tantrums, sending emails to staff at 5 in the morning and making grown men cry. Basically she stands accused of being the most god-awful bully to her staff. This is reported by the Hollywood Reporter, a very respected publication. When she tried to discredit it and say, oh, it's a bunch of lies, it's not true, it's just some disgruntled ex-staff member, they said the editor of the Hollywood Reporter went on to Access Hollywood, massive program, TV show in America, and said, actually, we've talked to 12 members of staff and one of them's still on the payroll.
Oh, gosh. I think that the thing is they're not going to run a story without considerable amount of verifying.
Oh, no, they did. No, I think you can.
Do you know what I mean?
You can take that story to the bank.
Exactly. And I also think that maybe this is where they're going to start to separate the affairs a little bit. Where Harry will start to do his own thing. Maybe Meghan's America side of branding will be separate, and that might clean up the image a little bit.
Inevitably, Prince Harry's uneagerly awaited TV series about chinless wonders horse sport polo has plunged Netflix bosses into a profound state of disappointment. Their private verdict? Dullsville. It's co-produced by Meghan, whose understanding of popular tastes seems somewhat limited. Talking of her ladyship's limitations, retaining staff has never been her strong suit either. Incredibly, amid the constant procession of rapid resignations, 19 so far and counting, yet another key employee has just deserted the sinking ship. Farewell then, Archewell's global communications chief, Ashley Hanson, who in her departing statement made it clear that she loved working for the Sussexes. Yeah, loved it so much, she quit. But back to Harry's equine TV spectacular, which insiders say is off-the-scale dreary. Tedium incarnate. You'd have thought that the dashing Duke of Sussex's royal superstardom might have livened things up. And it surely would have done if old Ginger Nuts didn't make the bizarre decision to extract himself from the equation. Apart from the odd fleeting appearance, he's not in it. It's all about his Argentinian pal, some unknown hooray Jose called Nacho. I could have told them, just like I told you, that this production was always doomed to failure. Who cares about rich and privileged pillocks riding poor little ponies into a state of exhaustion? This cruel game of broken bones is a minority pursuit for a reason. It's immensely boring to watch. Why would it be any more interesting on TV? It isn't. But it is Harry's evident misunderstanding of his $100 million deal with the streaming giant that points to the problem. The ratings chasers at Netflix don't give a damn about polo. Still less do they give two hoots about the obscure Nacho Figueres. They want the royal guy to be front and centre, his regal presence pulling in the crowds. Instead, they're lumbered with the Nacho Show. And it now seems certain that Harry and Meghan's big money contract is in its final furlong, galloping towards the finishing line. The end. Meanwhile, the peripatetic prince has been in London and South Africa for the latest of his increasingly numerous solo tours, amid reports that he has decided on a professional divorce from Meghan. In a desperate bid to restore the popularity he once enjoyed, Harry is staging more and more appearances on his own. Frankly, the less he's seen with his wife, the better for his image. Yes, the Duchess of Sussex has her fans, but even she would admit she divides the room. To some, she is toxic, a turn-off, a magnet for negative publicity. Witness her losing battle against the Hollywood Reporter as she endeavoured in vain to discredit stories that she's a bullying dictator in high heels who reduces grown men to tears. The Duchess difficult narrative is not a good look. And as everyone in showbiz knows, bad PR rubs off. Adrift in an entertainment industry he clearly can't comprehend, hapless Harry appears to have at least learnt this basic rule. Despite his many sins against the royal family, the dim Duke is an amiable enough bozo. While dismantling Meghan's carefully constructed reputation, the Hollywood Reporter's quoted sources described Harry as a very, very charming person, but also very much an enabler. In other words, he still lives by his notorious slogan, "What Meghan wants, Meghan gets." Nevertheless, could it be that the unsettled prince is now putting himself first and distancing himself from a worrisome wife who on the global stage has led him astray?
Talk to me about where you feel like Harry and Meghan are right now when it comes to their professional reputation. Did you ever expect to see serious business publications like Business Insider or The Hollywood Reporter questioning Harry and Meghan's work ethic or their management style?
It's a really interesting question, and the problem I have with this is that when Harry and Meghan were in the UK, the media got accused of all sorts for saying that Meghan had caused lots of problems at the palace, that she disrupted staff. You know, we were accused of either being racist or just insulting this poor woman, not understanding her. Or Buckingham Palace got accused of leaking smears about her. And we took a lot of flack, but there was so many people came out and said that, you know, they didn't like working for her. She caused lots of problems. Obviously, Valentine Lowe has written about this in the Times, about the bullying allegations. And I find it fascinating that 4 years later, there are US publications coming out with the same stories. Now, I don't know if Meghan is a terrible boss. I've never worked for her. But if it is a case that we've now got the Hollywood Reporter, which I'm led to believe, I'm told is very reputable, they said they spoke to 12 members of staff, or former or current members of staff, including one who is currently high up, that is saying exactly the same stories as we heard when she worked, she was a working member of the royal family. I'm not saying that justifies what was said about her back in the past, and it makes what happened in the UK as accurate, but it's incredibly interesting that 5,000 miles apart, there are the same stories coming out about Meghan. I'm surprised that it's taken 4 years, but I think that's because in the last 18 months to 2 years, she has been bounced around a little bit more, working with more people, different organisations, people have left. So I think it's massively damaging for her, and I think that the Sussexes were hugely stung by this. You can tell how hurt Meghan was, or how shocked, or how concerned they were about the allegations about calling a duchess difficult, etc. Is that they spoke to Us magazine and had a lot of people come forward and give quotes, including the only named member of staff that actually came out and said great things about the Duchess of Sussex was her global head of communications, whose job it is to talk how wonderful the Duchess of Sussex is, and she was the only person that actually was named as a current member of staff that would say great things about her. But I think they were hugely hit by that. I think reputationally they could blame the UK media. They could blame Buckingham Palace for everything that was said when they were here in the UK. Now, who do they blame when it's the same stories are coming out in the US? And it's not a surprise to me that we haven't seen much of the Duchess of Sussex since that Hollywood reporter.
Well, it's quite interesting because if you remember, when they were still in the royal family, there was this supposed dossier of all the complaints that the staff had made about Meghan, and apparently it was the size of a bank vault and all the rest of it. So, and yeah, like we said, 19 members of staff, and let's not forget there's been 2 major kind of financial hiccups over at the Archwell Foundation. It's all just gone wrong for them. But again, from what we've seen from like the kind of insiders, they don't listen to the advice. Seems to be the main thing. And you know, these people, I'm imagining, are very, very good at their jobs, but the advice they're giving isn't being listened to, and it seems to be that again, every criticism is a personal attack. And if you operate a business like that, it's never going to work.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You've done a lot of investigating when it comes to their marriage. Do you think that a professional divorce or seeing Harry and Meghan work together less is anything but Meghan just wanting to stay home with the kids? Or do you think that it's fair for people to read more into that?
Who knows what's going on in the relationship? I have no information or no sources that say to me that backs up any of these claims that they're, allegedly living apart, or that, their marriage is on the rocks or anything like that. It's really hard with Harry and Meghan because anyone can say anything. So you can read something online, or you can read some anonymous post, or someone hiding behind an avatar, and you have no idea if they're telling the truth or not. But sometimes it gets on a roll when people start believing it. I would suggest that Harry gave up everything. All right, he really did. Think of everything that he gave up in the UK. He gave up the love of a country. He gave up the love of a family. He gave up a hugely important role of representing the UK for this one woman. Okay, for love, basically, to set up a family in California. Is that going to cause stress on your relationship? Of course it is. I do not imagine that every single second of their marital life is this incredible bliss, but it never is. You know what I mean? It never is. But I'd imagine that everything that goes on causes huge stress on them, on the pair of them, and of course they're going to have issues like every other married couple. But it would be ridiculous of me to sit down there and tell you that I think that there is trouble in paradise. I just have no information that says that is correct.
It's Montecito, not paradise. This is probably a little controversial, but I almost feel like Prince Charles and Princess Diana didn't do their children any favors when it came to the tit for tat back and forth when they were in a struggling relationship. How much, and Harry and Meghan are very vocal about this, how much of the types of questions I just asked you are Charles and Diana to blame for, because they kind of built this system where we have been warned to not believe everything we see, because Diana told somebody and somebody put it in a newspaper, and then Charles behind the scenes went back and said something else. I mean, it's almost as if the system that we still play by was created, I personally believe it was created by a very unhappy Princess Diana, who I love, but I feel like we're playing a game that she started.
Interesting. I mean, you talk about tit for tat. It's one way for the last 4 or 5 years. There hasn't been much coming back out of Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace towards Harry and Meghan. It's all come out from Montecito. It's all come out, appearing on Netflix shows and writing a book and appearing on podcasts. That we talk about this kind of cross-channel dispute between Harry and William, or people leaking information about each other and stuff like that. It's all one way. William's not spoken anything. The only thing he's ever said in 4 years about this whole situation was when he was asked by a correspondent after the Oprah interview, and he said over his shoulder, "We are most definitely not a racist family." There's not a dispute. There's not a two-way kind of cross-Atlantic row. It's only just come from one direction. As for comparing it to kind of Diana and Charles, yeah, they both use the media. They both use newspapers. They use photographers. They use helpful journalists to kind of plant stories. I it might maybe sound incredibly like a useless journalist or really unprofessional, but or not very good at my job, but that doesn't seem to happen now. Okay, people don't believe this. It's come out over the last couple of years that Kensington Palace would just phone up a journalist and tell us to write that story, or vice versa, or stuff like that. I saw one quote on Twitter saying, "Oh, after I did the story about Harry attending the funeral of Lord Fellows when he came over secretly, someone put a tweet saying, "Oh, we all know that Harry's friends with Matt and he sends him WhatsApp messages." I mean, that would be fantastic if that happened. But this stuff, there isn't that kind of link. What happened in Charles and Diana's era when they were planting stories in all the newspapers about each other, as we understand, that doesn't happen anymore. We've just got one-way flow of information or criticism, public criticism, on what we have had in the past. It seems to have slowed down now from Montecito. That's where. I mean, Harry's basically been the biggest royal source for 4 years.
Oh my gosh, what a quote. There it is. That's the quote right there. I mean, I guess I was talking about us ignorantly assuming that, or us, I guess, looking for signs that something might not be perfect with Harry and Meghan, because Charles and Diana would show up holding hands in foreign countries, all smiles, taking glamorous photos. But then people were being sourced behind the scenes saying not everything was as hunky-dory as they looked. But I mean, what you just told me is incredible, that you don't receive tips like that. Princess Anna's not calling you up saying, "I want to make sure you know this about Prince Harry." That is not happening. And
I wish she would. If she watches, please just give us a call and give us some great stories, Anne. But no, that's just, not my end anyway. And I don't know that. I don't think that happens to any reporters.
And what a great line that Prince Harry has been the best source for the last 4 years. At the same time, is he the most reliable source? When you were reading Spare, you mentioned to me earlier that it was so nice of Prince William and the Princess of Wales to try to cater to Harry and Meghan's feelings at that last event, that last royal engagement. Is Harry the most reliable source, or does his recollection really revolve around his heart and his emotions?
Yeah, look, I think Spare's a great book because it's from it's his words, it's his recollections. But yeah, there was plenty missing in there. There was if you just pick up the Sun newspaper in the noughties and see the front pages that he featured on, there's plenty that he didn't want people to read. It was his story. He's got to be an authentic source because it's come from him. But the problem always is with both Harry and Meghan is as they say, it's their truth, and we know from many things, from the race row that they came out on Oprah, there were 2 different stories. That story then changed in Omid's book Endgame. So there are many different truths. But as a source, if Prince Harry says something, you report it. That's what I mean about him being the best source. He's done so many interviews, appeared so many times and spoken. His words have been reported, more than anyone else. He's produced more stories himself than anybody else. That's why he's been the best source in the last 4.5 years, not him sitting in a hotel WhatsApping me stories.
Gels with exactly the stories we got about Meghan when she was over on this side of the Atlantic, still a frontline royal working in the palaces, that she was still accused of bullying all sorts of members of staff, to the extent that their head of communications the Queen's head of communications wrote an email saying, "I'm very concerned about the fact that Meghan's upsetting the staff." The Queen was so concerned she commissioned an external investigation by barristers. Now, this was thoroughly carried out, and won't hear a word against Her Majesty and all that, but I do think this was a rare mistake on her part, that when that report came on her desk and she read it, she decided not to publish it. Now, my guess would be it was excoriating about Meghan and she didn't want to cause too much trouble. So accused of bullying over here, accused of bullying in Montecito, and it seems like it's all adding up.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely, you come from when she was first introduced as Harry's partner, and everyone loved her. She could do no wrong. And then all of a sudden, she's overdone this victim state mentality, and it's run its course now, and it's very disempowering. I don't know why people seem to think that it is empowering to be a victim. If you've experienced something, sure, but to sit there and go on and out about it, people just get tired of hearing it, and it's devaluing any actual proper point that anyone wants to make.
Do you want to know the story? A few years back, I was working with a guy, you know, who was a bit difficult to work with. He kept shouting at me and stuff like that. And people started saying, "Oh, you're a bullying victim." I've never been more furious in my life to be described as a victim. I said, I cannot be bullied. I am not a victim. But you're right. Meghan is one of those people, there are a lot of them around, who wants to be a victim. And she's not a very good victim, because it's hard to be a victim when you're living in a $19 million mansion with 400 bedrooms, etc., etc., isn't it?
The thing with that, though, is it requires self-awareness. and let's just say that those two and self-awareness have never been in the same room, let alone the same continent, let alone the same room. But you know, this is my thing with Harry and Meghan, is that all of this is of their own making, and you know, this is the kind of the chickens coming home to roost situation. And you know, I'm watching this kind of, like we say, slow-moving car crash, and I'm just like, pass the popcorn.
You're right. It is a slow-moving car crash. In fact, it's quite fast.
Yeah.
But here's what's interesting, Vanessa, is a lot of people are now talking in terms of Harry's professional divorce from Meghan, not emotional or romantic. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that he loves his wife and he loves his kids, and all talk of him coming back to Britain without them, I think that's nonsense. But he is going to come back a lot more on his own. I mean, in the past week, he's been to London and South Africa, and then the week before he's in New York, all on his own, never with her. Now, the word is that his image makers have said, look, you're better on your own. Now, the thing about Meghan is, you know, even she would admit she divides the room. She's got fans, there's no doubt about it, many fans, but she's also got a lot of people who can't stand her. I think it might be 3 of them in this room, right now.
Individual.
But so the one thing you know about Hollywood is bad PR rubs off, and Harry on his own actually does quite a good job. He's an amiable bozo, old Harry. He's committed a lot of sins. She's led him astray, but people around him say he's a likeable guy. So it's interesting that he's spending more and more time on his own, isn't it?
How much did Harry and Meghan forget to declare on their latest tax return?
Well, I can tell you the figure is actually $4 million.
This is 2 instances now of failing to actually get the proper paperwork in time, and it's hit every time it hits the headlines. What seems to me is the fact they can't find anybody to stay long enough to actually run the organisation because of how they behave. We've seen multiple reports and multiple sources say that they don't listen to advice and they want things done their way, or it's not done at all, and that you can't run a foundation.
It's but Pete, as somebody who advises people on media strategy, is there a point at which the public just thinks, oh, it's Harry and Meghan again? You know, they've you said this is the second time they've been in trouble. I mean, if the King was in trouble for some of his charity things, and he was a little while ago over what donations he was taking, that was a big thing. But now we hear this stuff on such a regular basis. I feel we're desensitised.
Yeah, that's very true. We are becoming very desensitised to them. Or we're starting to hate the stories about them. It's quite interesting how that has turned. But on the actual foundation, it does just seem to be about 4 people keeping this foundation alive. You know, it doesn't seem to be as popular.
It's as though they're not interested in really doing any charity work in
reality.
reality.
That seems to be the reality.
But I'll tell you one thing. A friend of mine in America said to me, if you look at the Clinton Foundation, he said he believes that that's been established in a way that if you tell the truth about what the Clinton Foundation is doing, people will think you're a mad conspiracy theorist. A lot of these foundations, you know, carry a lot of cost, where it's like, we're helping the poor by flying to Davos on a private jet paid for by the donors. A lot of them are not the charities in the way that we would think of them in the UK.
Yeah. I'm going to say I think charity is probably the wrong word to use for foundation, and we should make that distinction.
I mean, Hillary was taking money from the Saudis at the same time as she was the foreign secretary, what they call Secretary of State.
Sure, and didn't she use the foundation to pay for Chelsea Clinton's wedding?
She did?
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
So her private jets were all paid for. I bet Harry and Meghan's are as well. Through the arts.
Genuinely wouldn't surprise me if
I might
actually
set up a Dan Chuck Foundation, actually.
Yeah. Have you?
I might do. It's his hearing as well as his eyes.
Simon, we set up one for you right now.
No, can I just tell you one thing, Simon? Look, when you set up a charity for people in the distressed circumstance, that's to help you. You're not supposed to be the boss of it. You're supposed to be the one who's helped by it.
Yeah. I have to say, always in defence, and I will try and put this on, I do know people very close to Meghan.
Oh, it's because she gave me that jam. Tell them about the jam.
No, it's not just the jam, but also a lovely lady, that's Spencer, and that's her name. And she basically, that's the surname. And she was in one of her co-hosts, so if you like, a co-guest, if you like, a star in the Netflix series Suits. Do you remember that? And she was wonderful. And basically what she was sort of saying is, look, she's a great person on that sort of basis. And this is...
Hang on a second.
Yes.
Look, I know Lord Ali gave you the glasses, but I've worked out why there's 2 cups there. It's not because you're going blind. It's because you've got notes. Look at that.
No, I'm preempting.
Look at what is that? You've got the questions.
What are you doing? No. Take it off him.
It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. You paid no. IRS is waiting. The next tax return is due November 2021.
I did my
which
research.
makes us go, Archie, you're not meant to know what the question is.
I don't know what the question
It's a quiz.
I'm predicting what's happened. Here we go. I've won. No, the reality is...
That's right. Can I just stop this quiz for a minute? Has anyone else got any notes? Right, have you got...
He's got notes. He's got notes. I was going to say, and I was checking the text, because they watch this goes out live. Abigail Spencer is her name, and she's the co-star in Suits. And I had a lovely lunch with her and Rick Astley in Cannes.
That's the most random group of people I've ever heard.
Where are we going with this?
I'll tell you what, that'll stop the traffic in Beijing, won't it? Abigail Spencer and Rick Astley.
No, they're brilliant. Never going to let you down. I can work on that sort of basis.
Let me tell you something. Your qualifications ought to be more than just having lunch with Rick Astley, however unpleasant that might have been.
It wasn't unpleasant. It was a glorious moment in Cannes. I'll be there in a couple of weeks' time as well. Hosting the Drama Awards is what I do.
OK, so how much did Harry and Meghan forget to declare?
Well, they didn't, probably get someone underling, but it was $4 million. It was the Archwell Foundation and their charity, and it may come out in November.
$4 million is the correct answer.
Professionally, at least, Harry and Meghan are leading increasingly separate lives. People have talked about their professional divorce. Harry misses the popularity he used to enjoy when he was a carefree prince. Frankly, going round with her doesn't do him much good on the publicity front. Toxicity rubs off, and it rubs off on him. So he's going around on his own a lot more. In the last week or so, he's been in New York, he's been in London. I think he's currently, if not on his way back, he was in South Africa. Meanwhile, she's turned up at a Los Angeles Children's Hospital gala, and I'm going to put this one on you. You said to me that she'd she'd gone in the closet for her old Deal or No Deal outfits. It wasn't her best sartorial performance, I tend to agree. A sort of vision in red. She looks like she got dressed in the dark. But what I'm suggesting to you, Kinsey, is I think now the Sussexes, I'm not talking about their personal relationship, but I think professionally they're now at war with themselves. You know, she's trying to upstage him, he's trying to upstage her, so it goes from bad to worse. I think that's what's going on now.
Well, it's almost a real act of desperation. You know, just watching Meghan on the red carpet, and I understand what you're saying. We saw the beginning of that when Prince Harry was in New York, you know, socializing with the Clintons, socializing with all of these high-profile individuals, and you know, that could elevate Prince Harry in the eyes of other people and could elevate him in the charity world. And Meghan interrupts that with the Us Weekly cover. And then, you know, we're seeing Prince Harry in South Africa, Meghan taking the red carpet in Hollywood. So I understand what you're talking about when you say it's almost as if they're not in sync, where we see the British royal family. If Prince William has an event on Monday, the king will make sure that he doesn't announce something until Tuesday or Wednesday. They all work together because at the end of the day, they want to support each other. And that's not what it looks like here with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But I really felt like you saw her oozing sweetness and kindness and just so desperately trying to distract from the bully allegations on this red carpet, as if one walk across a green/red carpet is going to erase literally years of bully allegations, because she smiles when she's instructed to and poses when she's instructed to, and that's just not the case. I don't think that the people that are following this story closely are going to be so forgiving.
Exactly right. Now, she went to the LA Children's Hospital Gala, which sort of bears kind of uncanny similarities to the Well Child Awards that Harry went to in London. So, I mean, it's a bit odd, you know, that in LA she's going to a sort of kids charity event, and in London he's going to a kids charity event. I mean, they're going to compete for, you know, column inches in the papers, space on television, on radio channels. So it does almost seem as if, as I said earlier, that they're battling each other with, you know, who gets onto the front page.
And it's too little too late, Kevin. Like, if they would have done this 4 years ago, come over to America, quietly gotten heavily involved in the charity circuit, we might have seen them. Well, first of all, I was teasing her because there's a Costco wholesale logo behind her, and it just hands tabloid media a Discount Duchess headline. But why doesn't it say Archwell? Why does it not say Archwell Foundation behind her?
I hadn't thought about that.
Why are they not contributing so much to this cause that it's their names on the step and repeat? And why did it take them so long? We are having a hard time processing this and seeing sincerity when it comes to Harry and Meghan's charity contributions today, because it's like a switch flipped. They went from selling stories about their family members that were hurtful, some of them I believe to be untrue, and really making the last few years of the Queen and Prince Philip's life a living hell, to all of a sudden trying to be, you know, Mother Teresa of Montecito. It's hard to digest.
Exactly right. And I've just read that the Duke of Sussex, Harry, this is quite extraordinary, has appeared at 10 solo engagements on his own in the last 15 days. So we read, and I think there must be something in it, that his image makers suggested a little bit more action on your own, a little bit more action away from Meghan. And what that means is I think that these people, they care about Harry's image, and they know that her image is shot to hell. That Hollywood Reporter bullying claim, going on the back of what we know was going on this side of the Atlantic when they were working as British frontline royals, whenever that was, way back before 2020. So we now know that that the bullying narrative sort of holds water. So Hollywood Reporter's bullying stories backed up by 12 members of staff, one who's still on the payroll, 11 former members of staff who said she's a bully in high heels, she reduces grown men to tears, she has tantrums at the top of her voice, she sends emails at 5 in the morning, quotes, she's truly terrible, everyone's terrified of her. Now, as we've discussed, Kinsey, when allegations like that are made about you in a publication like The Hollywood Reporter, the Bible of Tinseltown, you don't wriggle out of that with one appearance at a children's hospital charity gala, do you?
Yeah, no matter how much you flirt with the camera that Variety has on the carpet, Variety, which is competition for the Hollywood Reporter, who Meghan Markle has really always favored and given them, they put her on the cover of their magazine shortly after the Queen died. She gave them an exclusive, and I think that she she not only prefers that publication, but I think she's probably going to throw them a bone or two in the future when it comes to her Netflix series, An American Riviera Orchard, to reward them for not going in the direction that The Hollywood Reporter has, which has been trying to hold the Sussexes accountable and being critical of two people that, you ask some of their former employees, they will say that they are hard to collaborate with. But I also think it's interesting that Prince Harry was due to return to California over the weekend and opted to prolong his trip by an extra few days. That is not something he would be capable of doing if Meghan had been on his arm. She would have said, no, I want to go home right now. I miss the kids. But because he has this freedom, because he's alone, he is capable of saying, actually, there are some people I want to catch up with. And that has to feel, talk about finding freedom. That has to feel a little good for him that he is in the position of doing that, because he's hypersensitive about security when Meghan's by his side, and everything seems to have run smoothly throughout this trip.
See, you and I, we don't often disagree, but we did slightly last week about Harry's position now, when I said that I thought that Harry's reached a point in his life where he's thinking, I'm going to make a few of my own decisions, and I think I need to be away from this woman when it comes to publicity. There's a quote in the Mail saying, solo Harry was the Duke's idea. A quote saying, I hear he wanted it this way. I believe he wants space. The Duke and Duchess are hitting their stride as individuals. Well, OK, I mean, let's hope this is just professional. But if you'd have said a year ago, oh, they're going to start branching out, going on separate appearances, spending more and more time, even professionally alone, people would have said you're crazy. But this does seem to be the direction of travel. And when we get quotes like, he wants space, I mean, do you think he's beginning to feel a little bit cooped up with Meghan?
Well, let's take a look at what was happening in January of 2023. I just did this video on Kinsey Scoville Unfiltered about how Jimmy Kimmel, who Meghan was at this event with over the weekend, really started, as Chris Rock probably started it, but Jimmy Kimmel certainly gave everybody else permission. He was before South Park when it came to tearing into the Sussexes. And in January of 2023, he started doing that after the release of Spare. Now, Prince Harry was solo during the Spare promotion. We saw him sitting down with Anderson Cooper and Tom Bradby and all of these people, and everybody was asking, where is Meghan Markle? But throughout that process, he was destroyed. He was teased but whether it was Trevor Noah at the Grammys or whether it was Jimmy Kimmel writing the Prince and the Penis book that he read on Jimmy Kimmel Live, he was absolutely destroyed. So that was not a confident time for him. No matter how much money he was raking in, he was being criticized left and right and considered the greatest embarrassment in royal history for some of his revelations in Spare. This time, he is rocking and rolling. He is receiving wonderful press. People are saying, Prince Harry is back. Look at that smile. I guarantee you he's enjoying this solo execution much more than we saw throughout the Spare promotion.
So going forward, what does this mean for this couple? Because we understand that they've got more of these weird pretend royal tours planned, so they'll do those together. But apart from that, maybe this is it. They just won't go around too much together, at least publicly anymore.
But then I ask you, like, how does Harry justify this? We're not safe. We need so much security. You double up your security when you're separate, like now you've got to have an entire team for Harry. Now you have to have an entire team for Meghan Markle. I simply ask how they can afford that. If they're going to go their separate ways religiously and we're going to see them apart more often, that is double the amount of money they're going to need for security. And, I just hope that they're considering things like that, because they already complain and use the excuse that they couldn't afford security in the first place. And that's why they ended up selling family secrets to Netflix and Penguin Random House. That if that's the way that they're going to pursue things going forward, good luck. It sounds sounds like an expensive route, but people do like Prince Harry more than they like Meghan Markle. Polling suggests that's the fact.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Hollywood Reporter said. Their sources said that Harry was very, very charming. Nice guy to be around. This is from the staff. But he was described as very much an enabler. In other words, he does what Meghan says. Do you remember his very famous, maybe notorious statement when he was in Britain and when all the staff were saying, do we have to do everything this woman says? And he said, Meghan gets what Meghan wants. So it still seems as if he's been living by that. But going back to our little dispute, do you feel that there may be something in what I'm saying, that Harry actually has found a bit of a backbone? And let me tell you, I know something about him. He is interested in himself. He really is interested in himself. And if he senses that she's bad for his image, he will drop her. And I'm wondering if we're in the process of seeing that. Harry has grown a pair and he's going to stand up for himself from now on.
You know, I think I agree with you a little bit more, and it's because of Meghan Markle's presence on the green carpet. Well, first of all, I think there was an attempt to look really sexy in that red dress, which was odd at a children's gala for a children's hospital.
Yeah.
And so there was this, going with the racy hair, the racy dress, the low cut dress. Like, there was a sense of like, I'm so desperate for attention right now, which is something you do when you're trying to get your husband's attention, who's not in the country. And there was a real, to me, insecurity about her presence on the carpet. And that is when I did wonder, is everything okay at home? And Harry saying, I'm going to spend a few extra days away from you, my wife and the kids. I thought that was pretty alarming as well. So I'm leaning into your observation.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm onto something, but we'll chart their progress carefully. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something I think we can take it as read that professionally he started to make his own way through life. But I'm wondering how much longer on the personal front that these two can maintain this, because I'm sensing all is not well. But in the meantime, Kinsey, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to wait for the first tea towel or the first knife or fork or piece of crockery that I can buy from American Riviera Orchard, which is, of course, Meghan's lifestyle site. No chance of that anytime soon, I suppose?
Yeah, I call it the stagnant lifestyle site. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it's going. I have no idea what's going on. There's no countdown or anything on the website. So patience is a virtue. High five. I guess we're very virtuous people.
High five it, Kinsey. Fantastic to talk to you. One day soon they might actually launch that website, but don't hold your breath.
Now, let's talk about where Meghan Markle was not invited this weekend. Back in August, we covered Meghan's Hamptons trip for the G9 Ventures Business Summit. At the time, News Nation had a headline that read, Meghan Markle having trouble cracking A-list in Hamptons. The story described the parade of Hollywood elite enjoying the girl boss vibes like Gwyneth Paltrow, Reese Witherspoon, and Diane Sawyer. Suspiciously missing in all of their photos, Meghan Markle. According to the outlet, celebrities avoided having their photo taken with Meghan like the plague. A source told News Nation, they know that if they are in a picture with Meghan, it is a tacit approval of her that she can use to promote herself. Meghan can show up at events where they're at, move into their neighborhood. Paltrow owns a house near Meghan and Harry in Montecito, but they are not friends. So it was no surprise to see several of the speakers and guests from the G9 Ventures Business Summit reunite over the weekend in Los Angeles without American Riviera Orchard's boss lady. Laura Dern, Octavia Spencer, Olivia Munn, Sarah Blakely, Naomi Watts, and more joined Reese Witherspoon for Hello Sunshine's second annual Shine Away event. The party brought the Hello Sunshine community together to connect women to greater possibilities through unity, entertainment, and Meghan Markle's new favorite word, joy. Shine Away's event included a wide range of conversations with top talent across entertainment, media, sports, literature, and more. Guests enjoyed live podcasting, branded experiences, and pop-ups. Tatiana Ali was there, and she is cute as hell. Reese was joined by business leader and Spanx founder Sarah Blakely for a fireside chat on entrepreneurship. Sarah attended the Hampton Summit in August. Other G9 Venture Business Summit guests and speakers featured at Hello Sunshine's event included actress Naomi Watts and Dr. Mary Claire Haver. Not only could Meghan Markle have benefited PR-wise from Hello Sunshine's event and networked and perhaps changed some hearts and minds, I know, I'm talking hypothetically, but this type of event is in her wheelhouse and how she built her brand before Harry. She pitched herself in the TIG and sat down for a Create and Cultivate event in Atlanta back in 2016. You need a guest speaker? I bet her hand couldn't shoot out fast enough. It really makes you think there might be some legitimacy to that News Nation report, because we not only saw multiple women from the G9 Ventures Business Summit reunite and get together over the weekend without her, we also saw very few photos of Meghan with people inside the gala. Now, I have heard forever that Reese Witherspoon politely declined Meghan Markle's request to be a guest on her Original Archetypes podcast. I mean, just Google Reese Witherspoon and Catherine, Princess of Wales, and you can see Reese's admiration for the future queen written right across her face. She is clearly overjoyed to be in Catherine's presence. I believe that Reese has chosen a side, and that's the side of the working royal family. But this is just another one of those head-scratching public relations moments where you go, there are all of these headlines about where is Meghan internationally, and you throw her in front of a Costco logo. Did you not learn anything from the Us Weekly execution? Imagine if the Where is Meghan whispers were squashed on a stage with Reese Witherspoon and Octavia Spencer. I mean, is anyone trying anymore?
King Charles to pause cancer treatment as Meghan Markle debuts surprise new look. They go well together.
Is it a surprise new look, JK? She looks like she raided a game show closet. I've seen that look before. It's called Deal or No Deal. So, you know, I don't necessarily think that's a surprise new look. I appreciate the creativity from the author of that.
No, she's run out of money and she cut the back off the dress and wore it again with some slip-on shoes, and everybody went, "Oh, that's very, very good. That's very good for the environment." She was on her own. Prince Harry, the ginger whinge, doesn't want to be with her. She's beginning to lose the plot. I told you, they'll be divorced within 5 years of getting married. How long have they been married?
Oh man, was it 20? I don't know. I tried.
I said 5 to 7 years, and he will be back with his ginger tail between his legs, and she'll be lording it up in California with 2 royal offspring. Trust me, that's how I see it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Well, that's beautiful. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting news when it comes to the king, because obviously his doctors have said we're going to allow you to go on this trip. We're going to temporarily, to Australia. We're going to temporarily pause. I don't want to call it chemo because I'm not necessarily sure if that's exactly what the process he's going through, but I think that it's good news. Obviously, they feel confident in what's been happening so far, that they're going to allow him to take this break. We also know that he has spent a significant time just relaxing over the summer, which I think is incredibly good for him. And I think that Australia is going to be so fun to see him in action again, because And
I think there's also a point with cancer, and Kate alluded to this, where you have the treatment, you're in your house, sometimes occasionally when the treatment's either getting towards the end or there's nothing. I just feel like he probably wants to get out. He's probably been in a routine of that for months and months, but he is... listen, he's a very brave man, as Kate's a very brave woman. Harry and Meghan have rowed over the Christmas holidays, and the latest sign of a rift. They are rifting, those two, aren't they? Come on, let's be honest. It's happening. I'm right.
This is what I have to say about Earl Spencer. I know he has a lot of friends, so I'll hold my tongue a little bit, but I love his current ex-wife, his latest ex-wife. He's got more ex-wives than I have clean socks right now.
More ex-wives than me. There you are. What a shock.
Yeah. So if Meghan wants that influence on her husband, enjoy. He doesn't talk to half of his children, so I don't believe in him being the one that's going to reunite the Windsor clan. I have no confidence in him whatsoever in that arena. And yeah, I really don't think that there's any way Meghan Markle's going to step foot in the UK. So I think this story is absolutely ridiculous. And I am definitely his team ex-wife when it comes to Earl Spencer. He announced their divorce right after her father died. I mean, give this woman time to breathe. So Earl Spencer.
Tell you what, dear viewers, bear with me. America, yes, I know you're in the height of your football season, but we are in the height of our football season, or soccer, as a lot of people call it over there. But as we know, the Prince of Wales is a massive Aston Villa fan, of which I am one as well. I won't show you my season ticket, but I am a season ticket holder. But I was last Wednesday at a game where Aston Villa have made it into the Champions League, which is the big sort of club competition. Well, we played Bayern Munich, a club we beat to win the European Cup. I can see most people's eyes glazing over here, back in 1982. However, the big night, our first home game in this season's Champions League, of which we qualified last season, was against Bayern Munich. I was there, but more importantly, amongst the crowd, the Prince of Wales, William, managed to make it to the ground for the first time. Now, he is a huge, passionate Aston Villa fan. And people say, why? Aston Villa is a suburb in Birmingham. It's a very historic football club, one of the founding members of the Football League. But I'm told the reason he became a football fan is because a lot of his schoolmates were supporters of Manchester United and Chelsea. And he thought, well, that seems rather boring and predictable. But he went to a cup semi-final back in 2000, went as a spectator, he said, with his beanie hat on, and he got hooked on Aston Villa. Now, he is a serious football man in the sense that he is president of the FA, the Football Association, but we have seen pictures of him before cheering on. And he's a real fan. He looks genuine. When we had a disallowed goal, he was all up out in his seats. There are pictures out there. And then he was with three of his mates, I think. So it wasn't just going with all the sort of dignitaries, of which there would have been plenty that night. So he was there as a fan. Of course, it's probably quite complicated for him to go. It does require security. We know that. But he genuinely, and interestingly, I work with a guy called Ali McCoist. Now, that day, Ali McCoist, who is a big commentator over here, was getting an OBE from the Prince of Wales. So Ali and I had been discussing what he should be wearing for going to see Windsor Castle to see. And I know Ali McCoist, who's a big celebrity over here, Talk Sport, commentator, well-known figure here, great football player when he played the game. I'm sure he had a very in-depth conversation for about the 2 minutes that you get with the Prince of Wales when you're getting an OBE about the game, which I know he talked to him about. But Prince William is a serious football fan. And for me, an Aston Villa fan, we're all looking up and we're seeing him giving it plenty of this, as we all were, because it was one of the great sporting nights that I've ever experienced as a true fan. I went as a fan, not working, just had a great, memorable night. And Prince William was there to enjoy it, along with many 42,000 other Aston Villa fans.
Well, that's interesting. You were both kind of off the clock, just there to purely enjoy the experience. Well, was the beard in attendance as well, or did he have a clean face?
Well, I think he's looking. He's got the beard now, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he's committing to it lately.
Well, I think that's his look now. I think he's obviously been given the green light. I imagine, he says to his wife, "Is this work?" Because that's what goes on, isn't it? Is this working? Or do I need to shave it off? A beard's a de rigueur now, right? Now I don't want to have a beard, but they're sort of amongst beards now seem to be in vogue. And look, it's his look now. He hasn't got much on top, so maybe this is an area of compensation. But anyway, great to see him enjoying himself with the football. But actually, more importantly, I think, Kinsey, what we are seeing is the way he's trying to evolve his new working life around managing, being there for his wife as she continues to continue her rehabilitation, which is obviously taking some time.
It makes you feel a little bit more confident that he feels comfortable going out to an event like this without any fanfare. I mean, this is my job. I watch these people pretty religiously, and I didn't know that he was out with a group of his friends solely, that this was just something he was doing in his free time. It makes you feel like things are starting to settle down a little bit more or to improve. But when you've got Jaguar Wright quoted on Radar Online trying to insert Harry and Meghan into the Diddy freak-off narrative, a narrative that I completely disagree with, and you've got Diddy's attorney saying that baby oil was an accidental Costco bulk buy, do you really want to be photographed with the Costco logo over your shoulder? Not to mention personally handing tabloids Discount Duchess headlines. I mean, it's right there. And truly, shout out to poor Costco. Haven't they suffered enough these past few weeks? They don't carry baby oil, and God bless them for sponsoring the Children's Hospital Gala. Well, it is such an important story that I feel like we have to address it. The king, he's going to pause his cancer treatment because he's been given approval from his doctors to travel to Australia for a royal visit. And they just say he's going to resume that treatment upon his return. You know, is this a case of the doctors, in your personal opinion? I know that you're not a doctor, but do you feel like this is a case of the doctors feeling a little bit more positive about the king? Or is this a case of our stubborn king that is going to make it work and is going to visit Australia?
This trip has been planned. And I think we have to accept that he's always been slightly led by the medical advice and trying to manage his life. And that's what Queen Camilla is trying to do, is to get him to sit down and just don't try and overcommit. Now, he's been busy. But I think what they're trying to say is, look, you will have treatment, but we can manage it. I would imagine that is a good sign, because they obviously feel they've got things proceeding in a good fashion. Now, we no idea, and we never should have any idea, because your medical records are something that you should keep private. Obviously, the plan is they've cut short the trip, because originally this was going to include a trip to New Zealand. So they've cut it back. There's Australia, and then there's a trip to Samoa. I think he's had a reception the other day where he met some people from Samoa, and there was a sort of a reception to sort of tee up the visit, as it were. So I think he's very keen to get back on the road. I know he will be frustrated because he feels, look, he's in his mid-70s anyway, that he wants to feel that he can get out there and do his job.
Yeah.
And I think we have to take it as a positive sign. The doctors will be monitoring at all times. Let's hope it goes off without incident. He's managing his schedule now, very much being in Scotland, sort of making sure he's physically capable, because look, it's going to Australia is never easy anyway. It's the other side of the world, and your body clock suddenly goes completely out of kilter, and he's got to manage that and expect to be on his best behavior. So fingers crossed, it's a very positive sign that they're managing his workload, which we've seen him still doing stuff in Scotland, which he loves. We saw him at a parliamentary do the other day in Scotland. We know he's been holding receptions on a regular basis. Burkle is his place where he loves to go anyway. So hopefully this trip to Australia can be seen in a very positive light with regard to his recovery.
How much do you think Queen Camilla holding down the fort and taking on more responsibility, being really kind and compassionate when people ask about the king, she'll say he's doing well. She'll give them quirky updates, kind of showing off her sense of humor, that she can't keep him still, things like that. How much is her behavior, how much is the king's diagnosis softened hearts towards her? Because I still meet people today that say, I loved Diana, I can't stand Camilla, but I do feel like that number is lessening. I do feel like more people are open to the idea of Queen Camilla today.
I think we have to accept that it is the status quo. Look, the whole thing, it was messy. The Diana thing, the Camilla thing, what was going on was people had a very strong view about Diana. And people are entitled to that. But we actually have to take it now out of the context of what went on behind. And now we're just looking at a person, they are a married couple. You have to put that aside, whatever before. They are very happy with one another. They know how to work their life together. She is an incredibly positive influence on him. And I think her way of, she knows that she has to sort of call the shots. And she has taken up the slack and has been out there. Her work with reading and all that kind of stuff that she does. She doesn't want to, she is not another one who sits still, but she knows she needs a space, but she's incredibly supportive, as any wife should be, of their husband undergoing cancer treatment. If you just take out the situation that they're in, they are just like any other couple at the same time having to manage someone's recovery from cancer. And we know lots of people, the length and breadth of the land, who are going through the same thing. Just in their case, it's in the glare of publicity, and Queen Camilla has to sort of be the block, as it were, to and restrain his natural inclination to just get out there and not sit still.